It's been a really long time since I've made a YouTube video. I'm usually on Instagram and I talk way too much, and I'm in my notes app and I'm writing a lot. Doesn't matter. Hi, welcome. Do you find yourself scrolling social media, questioning your identity, thinking about your gender, your sexual orientation, polyamory, E&M, relationship? I don't really know where to start this video. I'm starting something totally different and new and not at the same time. Hi, I am Stephanie, or you can call me Essie. I use she and they pronouns interchangeably, so you can use my names interchangeably too. I've been through a lot this summer, and I keep thinking about what I want, both in relationships and in my life. And what I want is to keep making content where I'm talking about myself and my identity, my experience, and being visible, so I can make it easier for other people to be visible. I don't have anything scripted. I just talk weird because of my autism, but I'm really excited to try and make videos again. I spent a lot of this summer going through so much trauma. It is the worst year I've had since my mom died in 2012. And all I am thinking about now is who I am, what I want, how I want to show up in this world, and what I want to do for other people. I've always been an entertainer and a writer and a performer and an artist. My degree is in media studies with a focus in film and video production with a double minor in radio and psychology. I like to make stuff. I like to talk to people about myself, about themselves. I love having deep, difficult, candid conversations with people about things that are taboo or just generally emotionally difficult. And that is so challenging for most people. I get that. I like to be a person who tries to make it easy to have difficult conversations. About me, I was born and raised in North Carolina, so I grew up in the South. I'm the youngest of 3 kids from a single parent home. My parents split up when I was about 3 or 4. I grew up fat, queer, and mixed, and that's important, because the fat part was the only part that was visible. The mixed part and the queer part, those were things I understood about myself, but were not as visible. And sometimes when people learned those things or even suspected those things, they became weaponized against me. They became tools to bully me. I was so ashamed of so many facets of my identity for so long. And I don't want to do that anymore. The more visible I have become as a performer, as a writer, as an artist, the more people I've had reach out to me and tell me how my being visible has made it easier for them to be visible. And that is so important to me. I didn't have a lot of visibility or representation of people like me growing up. No one who was exactly like me. I had people who like different parts of me. There were fat people I could look up to, or maybe queer people I could look up to, and mixed people I could look up to. And there weren't any people who were all of the things, because who could be all of the things? Everyone is special and unique in their own way. And I am special and unique in this way, in all these intersections of my marginalized identities. And I am not ashamed of any of them anymore. I only recently in the last year or 2 learned about my neurodivergence. But being in therapy and being medicated and having the help that I should have had my entire life has been so important to me. I'm working really hard on breaking myself of perfectionism and people pleasing and focusing on the way that I speak to myself, because I am usually so much kinder to everyone else. I'm not doing that anymore. I've always known that in theory, there will be people who don't like you. And I'm like, yeah, the people who don't like me are going to be cishet white people who can't handle me talking about all the things that I talk about. And in theory, I had no problem with that. But man, this summer it came to a head, and I was really questioning my values, my identity, my perception. I was questioning how I show up in relationships. I was questioning how honest I am with myself about the things that I want, how honest I am with other people. I was questioning absolutely everything. And I'll be honest, I am still having days where I am struggling. But I know who I am and I know what I want. And I want to make content about identity, about privilege, about power, about how we show up in this world, how we break those systems that oppress all of us. They are all connected. Capitalism, cis heteronormativity, compulsive monogamy, all of those things are connected. And you don't have to listen to me, but man, I hope you do. Going forward, I'm hoping to make more videos like this, where I'm candid and speaking to you in a way that is hopefully informative and educational about all of these things: race, gender, sexual orientation, power, privilege. The people who have power and privilege can never see it for themselves. It has to be pointed out to you. And if you're a person who wants to be conscious of those things and show up better for marginalized people, then I hope that this content is for you. As far as my race, I am a quarter Black. My dad is half Haitian. He was born in Haiti. They moved to Puerto Rico when he was like 12. So I am ethnically a quarter Haitian, but culturally a little more Puerto Rican because that's where my grandparents lived when I was growing up. And I speak way more Spanish than I do French, even though my dad and both of his parents were all native French speakers. I don't speak any French. That's not true. I can say merci. Merci beaucoup. That's thank you. But no, my Spanish is better. The race stuff is super, super important for so many reasons, especially because I grew up in the South where there were a lot of racist people. Where I grew up was a predominantly white area. White people were in the majority. And now I live in Philadelphia and I love Philadelphia. And yes, there are some better white people here, but there are still some trash white people too. But I think it's really hard for cishet liberal white people who grew up in a really urban area to understand the gravity and the weight of the importance of my race and why it really is so crucial to understand that I am not white. I used to think that as a person who is a white passing mixed person, I was a really good introductory course in talking about race with white people because maybe they see me as not threatening because I look white, and maybe that made it easier for them to digest the information that I was giving them. And this summer, I've come to realize that no, passing is actually an incredibly advanced concept for white people to understand. Specifically thinking about white millennials, right? We were all raised not to see race, not to see race. And right now, already, millennial white people are trying so hard to unlearn that, to understand that, yes, someone who looks different from you has a different race, they have a different experience from you, and you need to understand that their experience is different, and yes, it matters. But what I'm seeing is a little harder for them to grasp is the fact that I can look the way that I do. And yes, I have still experienced a lot of racism, even though I look ethnically white and I am genetically mostly white. I am still not white. Because I am an American, because I have this history with my bloodline, because America has this history, because my Blackness is not even American Blackness, but Haitian Blackness, that is even more crucial and important to understanding the generational trauma that I carry into my experience, but also the way I was treated by white people in the South when they learned that I was not white. Even if they didn't, my mixedness and my queerness, both of those things were things that were not visible about me. And I would often be in groups of people that would be saying things that were extremely racist or extremely homophobic. And I would have to question my safety. Is it safe for me to speak up for myself? Is it safe for me to identify myself as a queer person, as a person who is not white, while I am listening to people jokingly using slurs, using language that is outwardly offensive? I can't speak up because I have to consider my safety. That was a regular part of my adolescent experience. And even if people didn't know those things, I was weird. Now I know because I was autistic and I had ADHD. I had so many things that made me be othered, and I have been dismissed for so many of those things for so much of my life, by my family, by my teachers, by society. I have been told so many times by people who did not share any of those intersecting identities with me that they didn't matter and had nothing to do with how I was being treated. As far as my gender goes, I have identified as agender for many years, long before the word non-binary really came into the public lexicon. I like to think that sometimes non-binary people are considered somewhere between man and woman, and I consider myself agender, which is not even there, somewhere off in my own realm. I feel like my gender is alien. My gender expression is still very femme, and that mostly has to do with my comfort level. I think especially as an AFAB fat person, it was very comfortable for me to be hyper feminine growing up as a way to be safe from violence as a fat person or safe from violence as a queer person. If I made myself pretty and got good at makeup and got good at style, that made me very safe. And in a way, I am still struggling with that a little bit. I don't feel like I'm a woman. Sometimes I use the word woman colloquially, just like I call myself white sometimes, because I'm not those things, but in many ways I understand that I have the experience of someone who is perceived as those things. I like to make jokes sometimes that the way I feel about gender is the way some people might describe how they feel about their religion or their politics, where I'm not a woman, but I was raised a woman. When I go home, I still practice the traditions of being a woman, but I'm not practicing. But I understand how I'm perceived, how I walk through this world, and there is just still something more attractive to me about femininity. I like seeing femininity in others, and so I like expressing femininity in myself. But that doesn't necessarily mean that gender wise, I feel more feminine. As far as my sexuality goes, whoo boy, buckle up. I recognized myself as queer from a very early age, but it was more like I recognized other people weren't queer. I remember having a crush on Aladdin and Jasmine. I remember going to see Titanic for Leonardo DiCaprio, but falling in love with Kate Winslet. So I always had an attraction to both genders. That was never a question for me. It was more when I got to middle school and that became a thing that people started insulting people for. Once I started getting bullied for it and understanding, oh, this isn't how everybody feels, that was when I realized that I was the one who was like othered. It wasn't like later I came around and was like, oh my God, I think I might be kind of gay. It was more like, oh, not everybody is kind of gay. I think the first time I heard the word lesbian was on an episode of Step by Step. And it was like a little girl said that she was a lesbian because she loved her mom and her mom loved her. And there was like a big laugh. And I also deeply remember, of course, Ellen coming out on TV. That was a really big deal. You really don't see a lot of lesbianism, and you see mostly cis gay men. When you do see lesbianism, it's usually through the eyes of cis men or what is attractive to cis men. And bi erasure, come on, get out of here. Bisexual people exist. Hi. And I use multiple labels. Just like I identify as white and mixed and a woman and agender, nothing is set in stone. You can be multiple things. So I do identify with bisexual, pansexual, queer. I think bisexual is just, to me, bisexual is like nostalgic. Like bisexual is what I called myself in middle school and high school before I had better language. Then by college, I was identifying as pansexual. I'm pansexual. I like people of any gender. It's not the gender that I am attracted to. Then I later came to understand myself as demisexual and somewhat gray sexual. Demisexual is on the gray sexual scale. Demisexual is that I only feel sexual attraction to people that I am romantically and emotionally involved with. I don't really look at a person, I can't say never, but very rarely do I look at a person and just think that person is hot. I don't really have a type. I like big teeth. I like a great sense of humor. That's my biggest turn on, is somebody who can make me laugh. I like a nice butt. None of those things are gender specific. Those are all things that I like. But I really have to feel cared about. I have to feel bonded to a person. I have to feel emotionally attached to a person to feel sexually attracted to a person. Maybe I'll think somebody's cute, but I don't really want to have sex with someone. I have no desire to have sex with someone that I don't care about and that doesn't make me feel cared about. As far as gray sexual, the reason I do identify with gray sexual, and demisexual is considered under the umbrella of gray sexual, right? So there's asexual, and a word I only recently learned, allosexual, which is what's considered normal, but we're trying to get away from using the word normal in all of these contexts, right? So gray sexual is that my sexual attraction, I feel, is significantly lower than most people. And that is not to say I am asexual. It's not that I don't like sex. I'm not repulsed by sex. I love sex. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy sex, but how often I want to have sex is pretty low. When I do want to have sex, I want it to go on for a really long time. My statement is really crazy. I like to have sex for a long time, but I don't like to have sex often. Does that make sense? Mixed in with that too is I'm a person who is kinky. So I like all kinds of stuff that is not inherently sexual. And I also understand that most people that I'm going to interact with and play with and be romantic with are not going to be into all of the things that I like. And that doesn't just include kink, that's just in life in general. And that's a big part of me being polyamorous. And polyamory is another thing that I knew I wanted before I had the language or knew what it was. Even when I was as young as like in middle school, I used to know like, I don't want to get married and have a kid. I really want to just have a really big house where me and all my friends live together and we raise our kids together and we live off the land. And like, that's my dream. Now it's evolved more into like, we own this big piece of property. Everybody has their own yurt and we raise our kids together and we live communally. And some people are romantically involved with each other and some people aren't. And it's all fine. That's like my dream scenario, but I'm, settling for something somewhere in the middle. I'm really, really exploring myself right now as a solo polyamorist, as someone who was living with a nesting partner for the last several years. That partner I've recently asked to move out, but we are still seeing each other semi-occasionally and figuring out what our new relationship looks like. But I am a relationship anarchist. I don't believe in hierarchical non-monogamy, and I'll get into that in another video, but this is who I am. That's made that incredibly challenging because most people, whether they realize it or not, are participating in some sort of compulsory monogamist thinking. So a lot of people, even who are in the E&M, which is ethical non-monogamy, the E&M or polyamory dating scene, a lot of those people are still doing hierarchical dating, or, they're doing an open relationship, somebody who they're married, but then they have other partners on the side. And the difference being with my structure is that there is no structure. There's no hierarchy. There's no one person who has more rights than any other person, because I think that that is inherently misogynistic, capitalistic. It is inherently putting the wants of someone above the rights and needs of another person. I don't practice polyamory that way, and that's basically what monogamy is, or an open relationship. So I understand that that's kind of the norm, and maybe my philosophy is a little out there, but I am so excited to take the time to explain more of these things with you. All of these identities are really, really important because all of them affect how I show up in the world and how I perceive the world. If someone tells me I am choosing to see something some kind of way, or if I am perceiving something the wrong way, or if I'm projecting something, the issue is this is how I perceive the world. I cannot perceive the world any differently. And I don't always know if what I'm feeling this way because I'm hurt as a woman, because I'm hurt as a queer person, because I'm hurt as a mixed person, because I'm hurt as an autistic person, because I'm hurt as a polyamorous person. I'm usually pretty good at pinpointing which things, which microaggressions are triggering which bad feelings. I'm really, really good at that, but I am not perfect. I'm a human being with a complicated past, but I am doing my best. I am in therapy. I am medicated. I am journaling. I am doing the work. I talk about all of these things because it's so important for me to be visible, both for myself and for other people. I love it when people tell me that me talking about my life and my experience and my identity, when me talking about those things makes it easier for them to talk about those things or for them to see them in themselves. What's so important to me is creating a space of community. Maybe I will never have my giant plot of land with my polyamorous communal living space where everybody has their own yurt and we're raising our kids together and we're living off the land. Maybe I won't have that. But what I do hope to have is this little piece of community where we are trying to understand and support each other, where I can speak candidly about my experience and be heard, and have others who have experienced something similar feel comfortable talking about their experience as well. I don't know what this channel is going to become. I don't know how consistent I'm going to be. I am going to try so hard, but I am so excited to talk to you about all these intersecting identities, the way that I view the world, and maybe you can learn something. Maybe you can see something of yourself, or maybe you'll just get to know me a little bit better, and that's okay too. So if you have any questions, or if you have something that you saw in this video that really resonated with you, please don't hesitate to leave a comment and let me know. Of course, you can always like and subscribe. This channel is going to keep evolving just like me and just like you. So here are some videos I've made in the past, and on this side, maybe some videos in the future that I've made after I'm talking about what I'm talking about now. If it's there, it's there, and if it's not, it's other old videos. But I really want to thank you so much for watching, and maybe you'll keep learning with me. I'll see you next time.